Eamonn Fitzpatrick joins us now. He previously served as a political advisor to former Prime Minister Julia Gillard and Kevin Rudd. Eamonn, good to talk to you. Let's start where we left off there with Tim Ayres. This is the biggest problem for Labor, isn't it? I mean, why isn't it a danger repeating that statement that electricity prices are under Labor when they've gone up $1,300? Surely that speaks to a very cynical Labor electorate.
Thanks, Laura. Always good to be with you. And we've done quite a few campaigns together. So, yeah, here's to another one. Look, a couple of things on that. The point you're making, yes, perhaps, but actually, I think the key thing here is actually because of Dutton's nuclear policy, and that for me, that is just thrown a little bit of mud around. And so his message isn't as clear as it could have been, I think. And so, this will be contested. There's no doubt about that. This will be a very, very hotly contested election. A whole bunch of factors, a whole bunch of policies in play. The budget, I think, I'm just listening to your conversation earlier, the vote on tax. I mean, I think it gives people the opportunity to see what the coalition is prepared to do. That's obviously why it was done, to make that point going into this campaign and to set it up. So look, I think for Labor, compared to where we were before Cyclone Alfred, there's no doubt that the momentum has now shifted. The Prime Minister announcing the date would have to be shifted, I think brought the election into focus. I really do. And you can sort of start to see a little bit of a shift, and you can start to see now people wanting to actually analyse both parties and both leaders, whereas I think it was all previously going one way. So I actually think that's the thing to watch at the moment is momentum shifting back towards Labor. What does Peter Dutton do in the opening days of this campaign, and how does he sustain it? That's going to be critical to try and win momentum back his way. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He knows how to fight, but then again, so does Anthony Albanese. So, you've got two brawlers here who are going to go toe-to-toe on this stuff.
Absolutely, two brawlers.
I mean, I actually think...
It's extraordinary. It's going to be quite a campaign, one we haven't seen the likes of in recent memory. But what is Anthony Albanese's biggest weakness going to this campaign? I want to bring back into voters' minds that he won last time, but gosh, he started in the worst possible way, didn't he?
Yeah, look, I mean, leaders, don't get me wrong, Anthony Albanese has had a pretty long and, very high achieving parliamentary career and in the party, obviously, and then coming into the job. But I've got to say, every single leader I've ever met or worked for, they are actually made in the job. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're from, because there's things that you go through when you become leader that don't happen to you or you don't carry in any other role. But I think we now not only have one of the most experienced parliamentarians, he knows how to operate a parliament. He was the deputy PM to Julia Gillard. He did so much of that work to manage that situation. And now he's come in, he's got a whole term behind him. I mean, you look at some of those, key metrics in terms of the economy, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not a bad story. And obviously that's what Jim Chalmers has been talking about the last 2 days. The trick here is, have Labor been able to open the door enough to get people to start to want to listen to them? That has been an issue. And I think a lot of their problems throughout the last sort of year or so has been that people have just been closed. They don't want to hear from anybody. They definitely don't want to hear from the government about the opposition. What's happened, I think, with the rate cut, some of those key numbers, inflation starting to move, I think what that has done is actually just opened the door a little bit. So people are now starting to listen, and they're getting to the point where they want to actually make a proper assessment. And they will do over the course of this campaign.
I think maybe used to underestimate Peter Dutton.
Minister.
Yeah. Do you think they're still underestimating him, or...?
People would underestimate Peter Dutton. Well, I've never underestimated him. I think the same goes for Tony Abbott. I mean, they're both very, very, Abbott was and Dutton is a very effective opposition leader. Is that enough? Is that enough? The key here will be, can Peter Dutton make his case to be elected? Does he offer a real choice? And I think he's got to make up a lot of ground on that. Some of the internal and external research I've seen, from across all the parties and some of the published stuff says people don't necessarily think he's a better economic manager than the Prime Minister. I mean, that's a real issue if you're the coalition leader. I think he's had a couple of bumpy weeks too. The work from home stuff, that's not played well for him. He's had a couple of just strange thought bubbles. The referendum to give politicians the right to expel dual nationals who commit crime. I mean, just things which, if you're a voter looking at that, you're thinking, what's that going to do for my basket of shopping every week from Coles, right, or Woolies? I mean, it's just not quite there. So the thing for him is to make up that ground. The thing for the Prime Minister and his team, and he's got a pretty good one, I have to say, because experience does count for a lot. Communication does count for a lot, is making sure people, they take advantage now of the fact that people are starting to, they're happy to listen, they're happy to be spoken to about what's occurred. Times are tough, nobody's doubting that. But the key here is, can you make the case? I think Labor have the material they need and the record they need in the last 3 years.
We will see. We'll see if they're still listening. Eamonn, thanks so much for your time as always.